Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to flip a switch. Light will flood the room and you won't think twice about it. But for 99.9% of human history, that switch didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went dark. Truly dark. And something inside you still remembers what that meant. You felt it, walking down a hallway and reaching for the light switch a little faster than necessary, lying in bed and feeling your eyes pull toward the shadow in the corner of the room, hearing a floorboard creak at 2 a.m. and going completely still. You tell yourself it's silly. There's nothing there. But your heart doesn't listen. Why? The answer isn't in your imagination. It's in your biology, and it's older than language, older than fire, older than your species itself. Your eyes are, frankly, not built for the dark. Humans have poor night vision compared to almost every other mammal that hunts or is hunted. Your ancestors couldn't see a predator crouched 20 feet away in the brush. They could only hear it, or smell it, or sense it a half second too late. For millions of years, darkness meant vulnerability, not metaphorical vulnerability. Literal, physical, get eaten vulnerability. This is where the story usually starts with lions or wolves, but researchers now think the deeper root goes even further back to a much smaller threat. Anthropologist Lynn Isbell has spent decades studying primate vision, and her research points to snakes as one of the oldest and most consistent predators of early primates. Snakes are silent, often hidden, and most dangerous precisely when visibility is low. Isbell argues this long, ancient, pressure-shaped primate eyesight itself, pushing for sharper detail vision and wider fields of view, specifically to catch the outline of a predator before it struck. Your ability to see well in daylight may exist because the alternative, missing a threat in low light, was so often fatal. Darkness didn't just hide danger. Darkness was danger. So your brain built a shortcut, a simple, brutal rule that required no thinking at all. When visibility drops, assume threat, raise alertness, freeze, or prepare to run. This shortcut had to be fast. Too fast for conscious thought, because in a life or death moment, time is the one thing you don't have. That's where the amygdala comes in. It's a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons buried deep in your brain, and it acts like a smoke detector. Not a fire department, a smoke detector. Its entire job is to sound the alarm the instant something looks even slightly like danger, before your slower, more rational brain has had time to check whether the alarm is justified. Psychologist Arne Ehrman spent years studying exactly this kind of rapid threat detection. His research found that people identify images of snakes and spiders faster than they identify neutral objects, even when the images are flashed too quickly for conscious recognition. Your brain is already reacting before you know what you're reacting to. Now stretch that wiring across an entire environment instead of a single image. Darkness removes almost all your visual information at once. Every shape becomes ambiguous. Every shadow becomes a possible predator. Your smoke detector doesn't get one warning sign. It gets thousands, all night long, and it can't tell which ones are real. This is why a coat hanging on a door looks, for one full second, like a person standing in your room. Your amygdala didn't wait for accuracy. It fired first and asked questions later, because the version of you that asked questions first didn't survive to pass on its genes. Here's the part that surprises most people. This fear didn't fade when humans controlled fire, and it hasn't faded now that most of us sleep behind locked doors in climate-controlled rooms, with 0 recorded predator attacks in our personal history. Evolution doesn't update on that kind of timescale. Fire is roughly 1,000,000 years old. Electric light is around 150 years old. Your amygdala is operating on a design brief written over tens of millions of years, and it hasn't received the memo that the world changed. Evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nessa has described this mismatch clearly. Many of our anxieties aren't malfunctions. They're smoke detectors that are, by design, overly sensitive, because the cost of a false alarm is mild embarrassment, while the cost of a missed real threat used to be death. A system built like that will always look irrational from the outside, because it isn't optimizing for accuracy, it's optimizing for survival. So when your chest tightens at a sound in the dark, that isn't weakness. That's a several million-year-old alarm system doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world it was never built for. Consider how selective this fear is too. You're not afraid of the dark inside a crowded movie theater that cuts to black for 2 seconds. What triggers the old alarm isn't darkness alone. It's darkness combined with uncertainty, combined with being alone, combined with not knowing what's a few feet away. Strip out the uncertainty, and the fear mostly goes quiet. This also explains why a completely rational adult, someone who knows nothing is under the bed, can still feel a jolt of fear checking anyway. That gap between what you know and what you feel is the whole story. Your prefrontal cortex, the newer, slower, reasoning part of your brain, knows the statistics. Your amygdala doesn't care about statistics. It fires its warning shot well before your conscious mind even gets a vote. It's worth asking why this system never got dialed back once the danger disappeared. Wouldn't evolution eventually favor calmer, more accurate threat detection now that humans build walls and live in populated societies? The uncomfortable answer is that evolution doesn't reward accuracy. It rewards survival, and those aren't the same thing. A slightly too nervous ancestor who mistook a rock for a predator lost nothing but a moment of embarrassment. A slightly too calm ancestor who mistook a predator for a rock lost everything. Natural selection doesn't average those outcomes. It simply removes the second kind of ancestor from the gene pool. Every generation after starts from the genes of the nervous ones. That's also why reassurance rarely fully works. It's far easier to convince you something dangerous might be in the dark than to convince you nothing is. Your alarm system was never designed to be reasoned with. It was designed to be obeyed. This fear even switches on right when it would have mattered most in a human life. Researchers who track childhood fears have found that fear of the dark tends to intensify around the toddler and preschool years, right around the point a child would have started wandering further from a caregiver's side. That's a fear tuned to arrive on schedule, right as a child becomes old enough to encounter real danger unsupervised. Adults don't lose this fear so much as bury it under layers of modern reassurance. Streetlights, locked doors, the low hum of appliances that subtly signal you're inside civilization rather than out in it. Remove those layers and the ancient response resurfaces almost immediately. Spend one night camping, far from any artificial light, and notice how differently the forest feels after sunset. The trees haven't changed. What changed is that darkness stripped away the modern signals telling your nervous system it was safe, and something much older stepped forward to fill the silence. Nearly everything that unsettles you in the dark isn't actually there, and yet the fear itself is entirely real, an inheritance passed down from every ancestor who survived long enough in a much more dangerous world to have children of their own. The ones who weren't careful in the dark simply aren't part of your family tree. So tonight, when the sun goes down and you flip that switch without a second thought, notice what that small, ordinary action actually represents. It isn't nothing. It's a truce, a ceasefire with an instinct that spent millions of years keeping your ancestors alive, one that still runs quietly in the background of your mind, waiting, just in case the lights ever go out for good.